Good morning and good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Michael van Menig. I'm the coordinator of DC4LT, and it's my pleasure to welcome you at the opening session. This is Digital Competence for Language Teachers Webinar Series. We will have 12 sessions from today until the 26th of March. And these are mostly open webinars. Some of the practical webinars will require registrations, but since you're all here, I think you've either registered or you know about the webinar series from our website or your colleagues. So you're all very, very welcome. We are happy to see so many who are interested in digital competencies, and we assume many of you are language teachers or you work with language teachers. And we will try to give you and share with you our expertise in somewhat advanced topics in digital education and specifically in language learning. This opening session today will consist of 4 parts. In part 1, we will introduce the DC4LT project. We will explain our objectives, our status in the project, what we do, and we do webinars like this, for example, and we produce other interesting results that might be useful for you. And in part 2, we will go session by session through this webinar series and introduce every specific webinar. And that could also be useful if you want to only for example, attend some of the webinars, or you were not completely sure what the webinar covers. You will be able to learn about each of them here and ask questions, and we will be able to give you the answers about each specific session. In part 3, we will guide you through the Google Classroom that we're using as an asynchronous course management system for this webinar series, where we have some pre-activities, some additional materials that can be used together with the webinars. And in part 4, we will have an open floor for questions and for a discussion. So this is the plan for today. I would like also to introduce 2 of my colleagues who will be presenting at this opening session. So I already talked about myself. I work as a researcher at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology in Norway. My colleague who will continue the presentation is Maria Perifano. She works at the University of Macedonia in Greece. And then we will turn to the Google Classroom presentation, and that will be led by Alice Constantino, who works in the Language Center of the Cyprus University of Technology. Few other our colleagues from the project are also in this webinar. Maybe they will also be able to speak at some point and maybe answer some of your questions if they concern to some of the specific areas. All right, I will start introducing the project. I will keep it very short and will keep only relevant information and interesting information for you here in this part. We are a consortium of 5 universities: Norwegian University of Science and Technology, University of Macedonia in Greece, Pixel from Italy, Cyprus University of Technology in Cyprus, and ITMO University in Russia. We are supported by the European Union since the end of 2018. Our main objectives are to foster sustainable integration of digital technology in language learning. So this is the overarching main objective, and so we try to contribute to the digitalization of education, in particular in language education. Please note that this objective was set in 2018, 2 years almost, or 1.5 years before the pandemic started and the huge demand for digital competences and skills really appeared. And there are different ways how you could support digitalization. You could do it on the policy level, on the low level, like providing infrastructure and technologies in the classroom, developing new tools, and so on. And we choose to facilitate language teachers as our main means in this process of fostering sustainable integration of digital technology. So we want, as our second objective, to facilitate language teachers to become professionals in online and blended learning. So again, even more instrumental objective is how we are doing, and that has changed in the project. We were planning to organize face-to-face training events in different countries, where we would have a group of maybe 20-25 language teachers engaged in hands-on practical activities. We would use different technologies with them, practice different instructional methods. But that turned, with the pandemic, into this kind of series of webinars. We do not have anymore the possibility to work hands-on with you on some of the hardware technologies that we were planning to use, but we still have quite a bit of variety of technologies and methods that we can share with you and our experience. So we are doing this now through the webinars. Our final objective, which we hope can sort of start being implemented here with this webinar, is to facilitate communities of language teachers. So we want you to stay in our Google Classroom during the webinars, share your opinions and experience, comment on the webinars and on our materials, start discussions from asking questions and so on. If you have some particular expertise or interest in some of the sessions, feel free to tell us what you do, to share your experience before the webinar, during the webinar, after the webinar, and even after the series of webinars. So we plan to keep these materials online, and we plan to keep the whole Google Classroom environment online so that we can continue communication and sharing of our experience. I will now speak a little bit about the results we have so far. This is a report that we've produced based on some studies we've conducted earlier in the project. And this report is entitled Digital Competences in Language Education, Teacher Perspective, Employers' Expectations and Policy Reflections. So this report summarizes 3 different points of view on digital competencies in language education. Low level, the teacher's perspective, in employers' expectations is organizational level, and the policy reflection, this is more of a higher level, national or European. You can find this report on our website, or it's also available with the digital object identifier. The publications we've done so far are also here represented on this slide. There are 2 of them published, and 2 will be published very soon. So in all of these presentations, we basically report the results of the same studies that went into the report I just presented, but in the papers we go much deeper into the details and in some of the specific perspectives or topics that are represented in the report. All of these publications are neatly organized in ResearchGate. If you just search for DC4LT on ResearchGate, you will find the publications and the report there. So feel free to read also those materials. They are not yet on Google Classroom, but we will add this as reading material in about the project. Here is the final slide I wanted to show you today in the first part of this opening, and this is the status of the project. As you can see, we've through maybe 2/3 of the timeline. We've done some studies in the beginning of the project. We organized a public outreach event in November last year, and we are now here in the webinar series number 1 in March 2021. What's also probably interesting for you is that we are planning to repeat this webinar series. If you like it this time and if you find it useful, feel free to recommend this webinar series for your colleagues. Our plan is to repeat the webinar series, improved based on your feedback, around May or June 2021, and then one more time in October or November 2021. And in the very end of the year, in middle November 2021, we're planning also another public event with presentations about the results of the project. I would like also to notice that this webinar series is somewhat experimental. It is a blend between webinars, a webinar as a format of synchronous communication, and an asynchronous online course. So you can see this series as a mini course. We did not invest in designing a full semester course and qualification and certification, because we simply didn't plan it and didn't have the time. But we have a selection of topics that are based on some of the data we've collected, that these topics might be in demand and of interest. And we also plan the activities in the same way, based on the research and on the data. And this webinar series is experimental also in the way that we plan to collect your feedback. So feel free to tell us in the comments or during the webinars if you like and if you find it useful, if you find it too difficult or too easy. And feel free to suggest what else would you like to see, what kind of modules you would like to see in the webinar series number 2 and number 3. So this is briefly about the status and our plans for the rest of this year. At this point, I would like to hand the floor to my colleague Maria Perifano, who will speak a bit more about the motivation and in the context of the project. Maria.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone. Today, I'm so happy I see so many people here, so many colleagues from different parts of the world, and also colleagues that I know, colleagues that I know, and we work together in other training sessions. So I'm very thrilled with this. So I welcome you all in our DC4LT webinar series. Let me introduce a little bit, I will discuss a little bit about myself. I am an Italian language teacher and a technology enhanced learning expert, project manager and a senior researcher at the Smart and Mobile Interactive Lab of University of Macedonia that is located in the northern part of Greece. So I'm also adjunct professor at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in the Department of Italian Language Studies and at the Hellenic Open University in teaching English master program, teaching topics related to call. So I would like to present you a little bit to discuss before I start about digital literacy and all that. I would like to discuss with you the rationale of the creation of the DC4LT project. So what was that motivation and what inspired us to write this project proposal with Michael? During 2015-17, I had this problem I personally identified in my collaboration with other colleagues in different teachers training events across Europe, that teachers did not only lack digital skills, but also lacked confidence in how they could creatively and efficiently introduce technologies in their classroom, or in what ways they could support their students in using ICT. In order to identify language teachers' needs for digital literacy across Europe, a desk-based research was conducted. And what we found was that there was a big need for language teachers training on acquiring digital literacy skills and on understanding what teaching methodologies and approaches are needed in order to efficiently integrate technology in language classroom. And I also want to say that it was really, how can I say, interesting for me that even in cases when I have worked with teachers in the northern part of Europe where there was a very good infrastructure, these problems with what kind of technologies, with what kind of methodologies they would adapt in their teaching practices, there was really a big issue. So we said, let's go to these directions, to do something for that, to contribute a little bit, and to, in a way, to help each other on this task. So, what is digital literacy? As you see here, there are different, let's say, definitions. But the important thing is that the European Parliament introduced digital literacy as one of the 8 key competencies that every European citizen should master, and one of the 4 foundational skills for learning. Also, according to European Digital Agenda, digital literacy is one of its 7 pillars. And as you see here, it is recognized many years ago. We see here 2006, 2009, and 10. In another report, we see that again, we can see that there is a big need not only to integrate ICT technology into schools curricula, but also to invest in training teachers and to use them for teaching and to help students learn. So this was really something this need was, let's say, well identified many years ago. So here we can see that those are really, let's say, we can see here there are different reports that state that teachers all these identified teachers' needs for continuous professional development in ICT. So this is something that you can have also a look if you want to see more information about this. Let's go further. In this report in 2013, the survey of schools, we can see that the biggest percentage of EU schools lacked the appropriate infrastructure, had low frequency use of ICT in the foreign language classroom, and 70% of the language teachers did not consider themselves as digitally confident or able to teach digital skills effectively. So the idea is that we have all this data in 2013, but then we go back and we try to see what happened after, let's say, this period of 6 years. And don't forget that during all these years, European Union invested with money on different projects to more or less help this situation, and they tried to change the data. So what we see is that after all these years, teachers report again that one of their greatest training needs is again, as you see, more or less the same. But in the last decade, as it says, there has been significant investment, but still they had many problems, not only problems that were related to teachers, let's say, digital skills, but also many schools lacked access to high-speed internet, or they had also infrastructure problems. We see here, we have all these, let's say, different problems, different needs in 2019. So equipment, again, as you see here, in insufficient number of computers, tablets, insufficient internet, bandwidth or speed, all these problems, they were still there in 2019. Pedagogy-related obstacles, so many, you can see here, like lack of adequate skills of teachers, insufficient technical support for teachers, insufficient pedagogical support for teachers, lack of adequate content, material, also content in national language, or generally, they faced also, teachers stated that they faced these difficulties in integrating ICT in the curriculum, or they had the problem of choosing the right pedagogical models on how to use ICT for learning. So all these problems, let's say that with these problems, we have also other problems like the attitude-related obstacles for different reasons. So many people, many teachers, they are afraid of technology. For example, they don't care to learn about this. Or the school has not this as a main goal. So it has to do also with culture. It has to do also with personal, let's say, views. So there was also this kind of obstacles as well. So, okay. Now let's see here. I will just discuss about the frameworks that are available, the different digital literacy frameworks that are available now for all of us. But I will go back a little bit to say that generally, during the last 2 decades, there has been a continuous debate on defining what digital competence, digital skills, and digital literacy are, along with a strong effort on developing a framework, let's say, that could encompass all key elements needed in order to assess teachers' digital competence successfully. To that end, an extensive research has been carried out in this area, starting from, let's say, Bandy 2004 and going until Falun to 2020, so for many years. So much research has been carried out in this area and proposed various digital literacy frameworks and assessment tools. So one known that you probably know is the digital competence framework. So this is very well known, but the most known for us as educators, it is the most known for us, is the digital competence frameworks for educators. So there are many frameworks, let's say, that had the same aim, but there are many differences in structures, in proficiency levels, in the perspective, but also there are many similarities among all these frameworks. So there are some common components, common focus on skills development. So this one that I told you, a well-known framework that it is really widely used by European educators since 2017. It is the Digital Competence Framework for Educators that classifies the main components of the digital competence in 22 various competencies and its 6 basic areas. So this is a really, how can I say, a nice and very well and very complete, let's say, framework, because it combines different areas. One area is the professional engagement. Another area of skills is digital resources, so how we can use as teachers digital resources. Another one is teaching and learning, so it has to do with methodologies that are really important for us. Another area is assessment, so in what ways can we assess our, let's say, the teaching process and our students using digital tools. Another area is empowering learners, so how can we support learners? We need to learn and to know how to support them in using digital tools, and this is important, but most of the cases it happens the opposite. The learners know even more. And also facilitating learners' digital competence, not only, as I said, digital competence, but also facilitate the language learning of our students. So the digital competence, this one, the DigiCompendu framework, was built also on previous frameworks, because we had also the digital competence for citizens, for organizations, but this is only targeted to teachers. So these frameworks that I will show you now, we have just collected, let's say, the most known. But in this case, I will present you only those that are not targeted to language teachers. There are also a group of not so many frameworks. There are few, but this will I will do this in our last session, when we are going to work on the frameworks that are targeted our group, our language teachers. So, apart from the DigiComp for Edu, we have the UNESCO ICT Competence Standards for Teachers that it is, let's say, developed by UNESCO. I say here 2018, but I have to tell you that there are other editions as well. There is also the edition of 2011. And this is also very interesting. You can click on each of these icons then when you will explore further the material, and you can go and check, because it is linked to the framework. You can explore the framework as if you like. So apart from this one, we have UNESCO, as I said. We have the Common Digital Competence Framework for Teachers by INTEF, again in 2017. So can we follow to the next slide? We have also others to show. Okay, we have the Digital Literacy Standard Curriculum version 4, and this is provided and developed by Microsoft. Also very nice, this one. We have the Professional Digital Competence Framework for Teachers, produced by the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education. This is very interesting and very complete. It has many details. I think it is also very well written. So I really recommend this one to have a look. We have the Professional Development Framework for Digital Learning, developed by the Schoolnet of South Africa. And this is interesting to see also the views from another perspective. But you will see that there are many similarities in the way that people who developed these frameworks worked. So I think that they were inspired by, of course, the needs of their students and their teachers, but also by other frameworks that were already there, existed. We continue. Okay. Also here we can see the Digital Literacy Framework produced by Betham and Sharp in 2010. And this one from Belso on 2014, the 8 elements of digital literacy. This is really nice. I know Mr. Belso has worked for many years for Mozilla. He's a very, let's say, well-trained teacher. And really this framework is also very nice. You can have a look at this. We have also the British Columbia framework, the Digital Literacy Framework. And this one defines the digital competencies of children between age 5 to 18. And this is also very interesting for all of you who work with children. And in the end, we have, okay, 3 more. Okay, the Information Communication Technology framework developed by the Educational Testing Service in USA. Very nice as well, and very well, many well graphics in this one. And we have this that is also very famous and well-known in United Kingdom, the G-Squad, the Developing Digital Literacies, with very nice graphics as well and very nice explanation. This is also very, how can I say, it can inspire you, I think, this one. And in the end, we have the one developed by MIT, the Digital Literacy and Computer Science Curriculum Framework, very well known this as well. So more or less, those were the frameworks that I wanted to present, but I want also to say that there are also some others, like I have also one more, okay, and this one. But I also wanted to say that there are also some other frameworks that are targeting, for example, students' ICT skills, like the PISA of 2021, and 2-3 others, but those were the most well-known. So this is also okay, very interesting as well. The Open Universities, at last, I would say that is also very, very good. So more or less, this was what I wanted to say. And I think that now we're going to pass to the other section that we have to introduce our sessions very well. So today we have another session after this opening. This will be the first open workshop that we will have with my colleagues Anna Nicolaou, Elis Kagouli Constantino, and Maria Victoria Souley. We would love to welcome. We kindly invite you to our workshop. We will discuss about training models and teaching methodologies in COL. In fact, I will tell you which are our learning, which are the learning objectives of our, let's say, first training sessions: to learn about the basic modes of training, to discover the most known training models applied in language teachers education and computer-assisted language learning teachers education, to reflect on COL teachers education challenges, to explore COL teaching methodologies, and to share experiences and best practices. So it has two parts, but what is interesting for us, it is the thing that we want to have it has this round table, let's say, format. So we will discuss, we will do presentation, discuss all together, have a look at the feedback that you provided to us via our Google Forms. I don't know if you all have completed, but we can share the link and we can ask you to do that. It just takes 2 minutes. So far we have seen that we got some nice feedback. And so we will comment also on your experiences. We will also share our experiences in this area, and we welcome you all to come.
Thank you very much, Maria. I will continue. So we will now introduce every session by session. And this is Technology Overview for Language Teachers webinar that is scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central European Time. This session is organized by 4 people. My colleague Turt Talma from also Norwegian University of Science and Technology, Antonio Giordano from Pixel, and Daria Zhuka from Imo University, Russia. We have prepared a list of 20 technologies that are used in language teaching. We took inspiration in a research article that was studying different technologies and found this variety of 20. We've enriched it a little bit and changed it a little bit, and we supplied each technology with a short summary and language learning scenarios for listening, speaking, writing, and reading. And we have a pre-activity, and in which we ask you to share your experience, which technology you use for which activity or not use. And at the webinar itself, in the first part, we will go through all these technologies and share some of our own experience or some of the best practices, some of the examples of the tools that are used that represent those technologies. And of course, we will look at how these technologies are used for specific language learning activities. Then in the second part, we have an open floor and discussion facilitated by a Padlet, and we want to discuss with you all these technologies or some of them, and share our experience. So this is the session. Please note there are pre-activities here, and that's for tomorrow, so you still have time. They will only take you, I don't know, 10 minutes to go through, but they might be already very useful at this stage. Go into the next session, which will be Digital Competence Assessment Survey and Job Market. This is organized again by three of us. Antonio and Daria will, and myself. At this session, we are sharing our results from the studies we did in the beginning of this project. I talked a little bit already about these studies in the opening of this session, and in this particular webinar, we will go in details, and of course, we will engage in a discussion with you. So if you're interested in the teacher's perspective and the employer's perspective and the prospects of the labor market for language teachers. And also we can discuss how is it affected now by the pandemic. And we are very interested in your understanding and your views on the job market, the competencies of you and your colleagues. Then on Friday at 11, we have a session on immersive technologies for language learning. And we will introduce virtual reality, augmented reality, and a few other technologies such as artificial intelligence and how they are used in language learning. That would be just a short part in the beginning of this webinar. Then we will go to a hands-on activity where we will offer you to immerse in a very simple virtual reality application made for language teaching that is developed by my colleagues in the IMTEL lab at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. We will do some interesting and very basic language learning activities there, and then we come back into Zoom to discuss our experience. This webinar has a limitation of how many people can we guide through our virtual reality tool, and it requires you to download and install this tool beforehand. So we will publish the tool itself, I think, somewhere tomorrow. So you will have about 2 days to check the description of the webinar and to download the tool. It's very easy to use if you are familiar with computer games. And if not, then we, of course, will provide an instruction and we will guide you during the webinar. For those people, if we have, I don't know, 40 plus participants in this particular webinar, we will organize streaming from the hands-on activities so that if not everybody can join, then they will still be able to at least watch what is going on. Please also note that the tool we are using is only for Windows computers at the moment. It's still in the prototype phase, and if you have a Mac or a Linux computer, or you are joining on a smartphone or a tablet, you will not be able to do this hands-on exercise, but you will still be able to see it. Now I can continue introducing the next session, Developing Digital Narrative for Quest-Based Learning. This is organized by Elizaveta Shichova from ITMO University. This is a very cool webinar. It covers several methodologies in technology-enhanced learning, such as quest-based learning, game-based learning, and also it engages you as participants into actively developing a simple digital narrative, but using some very basic programming. So that is really exciting. This is an attempt to cover quite an advanced topic, but not going, of course, too far. And I think Elizabeth is providing really good step-by-step instructions. And of course, the webinar is designed for language teachers and not for IT experts. So if you are adventurous and if you feel a little more technical, feel free to join this. But even if you are not, you will be able to learn about quest-based learning and game-based learning in application to language education. Now, we are going to the program for the second week. We have more practical webinars here. Let's see, going starting from Monday, 22nd of March. This is a workshop about the response tools for the language classroom organized by my colleague Turt Talmo. This workshop will be mostly a practical and a discussion webinar. You will be able to use several tools that are normally used in a face-to-face format, and engage in discussions, and the hands-on and the practical part is fully integrated. So the response tools, you might know them from, for example, Kahoot, where the teacher has an interesting or engaging or practical means to engage with the audience, and that the audience or students can provide feedback or can respond to the question posed by the instructor using a piece of technology. In the past, they were little hardware technology like clickers with buttons, and the modern day technologies are rather either smartphone applications or web-based applications that are used for the same or similar purpose. And these technologies have various advantages in creating interesting activities in education. And of course, Turt is a language teacher. He will use all examples and share his experience from his teaching. Now I will give the word to Alice, probably to introduce her workshop.
Thank you very much, Mikhail. Hello, everyone. I'm also very happy to welcome you to our DC4LT Webinar Series. I hope you do enjoy the webinars during these 10 days. My name is Elis Kakouli-Konstantinou. I work as an English language instructor at the Cyprus University of Technology, and I'm also a teacher trainer for the Ministry of Education in Cyprus. So I'm going to introduce you to the webinars that let's say that the colleagues from the Cyprus University of Technology are going to be presenting during these 10 days. So starting with with the webinar that I have organized, which is titled Cloud Technologies in Language Learning and Google Workspace for Education. This workshop aims at familiarizing the participants with cloud technologies, specifically the Google Workspace for Education, and ways in which this can be integrated in the language classes. Our objectives is basically to get familiar with learning theories such as social constructivism and connectivism, and methodologies such as task-based learning. We will learn how to utilize the Google Workspace for Education and how eventually we can build our own Google class, and how we can share material with our students and assign different collaborative tasks and so on and so forth. The tools that we are going to be using is basically tools that belong to this package to the Google Workspace for Education, such as Google Classroom, Google Documents, Google Forms. Yes, moving on to the next, I have to pass the word to Maria
Okay, thank you very much, Alice. In this workshop, I would like to, first of all, to invite you to come. The aim of the workshop is to promote the creation and sharing of language OERs via Webquest activities, which are based on a collaborative and inquiry-based methodology and are facilitated by Web2 tools. So this training session, I would like to work with you in groups, and the main learning objectives is that you are going to learn how to create and share language OERs. So this is really open educational resources. This is really important. I don't know, but it's important to know how we can create material and where we can share this material. Under which licenses, and how we can do this. There is a process in doing that. So we will, in fact, what we are going to do together is that we are going to create material and we will share it, open educational material. But in order to create this material, we are going to use different Web2 tools. And I have here some ideas about what tools we could work on. But I will also, let's say, ask from you also feedback. It's not available so far, but I would like to check at least one day before my workshop to see what pre-activities are needed, because I want to see if you would like to get to create something, let's say using a more advanced tool or a more simple one, or 2, 3. I will see, depending on the number of people that they will come to the workshop and the needs. So I have the idea, but the idea is that you are going to create some nice, let's say, language open educational resources, and you are going to work in groups. So welcome.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So now I'm going to introduce the webinar, which was organized by my colleague Anna Nicolaou from the Cyprus University of Technology, and which will take place on the 24th of March at 1 o'clock Central European Time. The title of your workshop is Virtual Exchange, Developing Critical Digital Literacies. And basically the aim of the workshop is to introduce virtual exchange as an innovative teaching pedagogy based on meaningful and constructive technology-enabled intercultural collaborations. The workshop aims at developing language educators' ability to facilitate their learners' participation and collaboration in culturally diverse online communities, and develop their critical digital literacies through virtual exchange. So basically, throughout the workshop, the participants will learn about virtual exchange, and they will navigate through the Uni Collaboration platform, learn how to add a class on the platform, and eventually design a virtual exchange project. At least this is the objective of my colleague. So the tools that she will be using is the Uni Collaboration platform and Google Documents. And we will kindly ask you to watch a video before the webinar, which you can find posted, the URL of which you can find posted under the headline of the workshop on the Google Classroom, on the classwork page, basically. Next. Yes, the next workshop will take place on the 26th of March at 11 o'clock Central European Time, and will be delivered by Maria Victoria Soule and Antigoni Barmaxi. The title of the workshop is Collaborative Learning Tools for Enhancing Language Learning. And basically, you will have the opportunity to explore collaborative learning tools that can be used in the process of collaborative writing for the creation of digital artifacts within the social constructionist approach, as well as tools that promote collaborative strategic reading. The objective is to learn how to work collaboratively online, learn how to use social technologies, use collaborative writing tools, assess collaborative writing, use tools that promote collaborative reading, and also learn how we can assess collaborative reading. The tools for this webinar will be Google Docs, Kaggle, Facebook, and DocuViz. And there is also a creativity for this webinar too. Before the workshop, you are kindly asked to install Google Chrome and to have a Facebook account if you don't have already, and if you want to create one, because the colleagues have created a closed Facebook group for you to participate in. And that's all, I guess, about the workshops.
The last one that I discussed before. Yes, you passed it.
Sorry, Maria. Sorry, yeah.
It's okay. It's after yours. So it's on Friday at 1 o'clock Central European Time. As I referred to this before, this is an open workshop and aims at engaging participants in an open and interactive discussion that will focus on the presentation, analysis, and evaluation of the different dimensions of the DC4LT assessment framework. So in the first part, we will see a short overview of known digital literacy frameworks addressed to language teachers. So we will more or less analyze these. And then it will follow a short presentation of the DC4LT assessment framework, its different dimensions, and the description of its development. And in the second part, participants will be divided in 6 groups and will be invited to discuss and share their opinions on the main topics addressed by each dimension of the DC4LT framework. And the last part, we will see all together this feedback that it will be aggregated on a Padlet and presented there. But basically, each group will discuss, will have also on a Google Drive, you will have also a space where you can also write your ideas, so the keywords, so all these, the outcomes, let's say, of your discussion. And then we will go and see in the end, summing up all the things that you have shared in these different 6 groups. So I would love to welcome you in my workshop as well. And then we will finish this training school on Friday. So I'm passing the word to you, Elismu, to discuss about the webinar series.
Okay, so one last slide before we get to the practical aspect of things. The webinar series will be delivered through Google Workspace for Education, basically, which was formerly known as the G Suite for Education. The name has changed recently. Basically, the learning management system that we will be using is Google Classroom, which is part of Google Workspace for Education. And we will also be using other tools like Google Documents, Google Forms, Google Slides, and so on and so forth. On this slide, you can see a screenshot of our DC4LT class. I'm using Google terms now, which was built on Google Classroom, on the Google Classroom platform. You should be all invited by now to participate in this class. And I'm going to show you how you can join the class now. And I'm going to try to join as a student myself so that I make things easier for you, hopefully. Okay, let me just tell you that in order to join the class, you need to be logged in your Google account. So first sign into your Google account, and then there was an email sent to you by Mikhail, a welcome message sent to you by Mikhail, basically, in which we have included this link, which you can use in order to join our class. So if you could just copy and paste the link here, preferably in Google Chrome. Okay, and then you can automatically join our class. Now, you can do that by clicking on join class, and sometimes the system might ask you to provide the classroom code. Okay, here I have managed to join directly. If the system asks you for a class code, then this is the code. Okay, let me show it to you. This is it. So it's P4F GVCI. That's the class code that you can use in order to join our class. So here it is. I have joined as a student now. What we can see is basically 3 pages: the stream page, the classwork page, and the people page. On the stream page, you can see different announcements made by the DC4LT team, but you can also use this space in order to make your own post, pose any questions that you may have, or this place can be used for discussion and interaction with other colleagues. So basically, this is organized in chronological order. The newest post comes at the top, appears at the top. I can see that some people have already started posting things, and I'm very happy for that. So please, you are very welcome to introduce yourself to the class, to the course. Come in touch with other colleagues, share different views and opinions, pose questions on any issues related to what we will be discussing during this 10 days. The next page is the classwork page. On this page, let me just move this here. So on this page, you can see all the topics which we will be dealing with during these 10 days. Okay, this class is also organized in chronological order. Sorry, this page is also organized in chronological order, starting from some information about the course. You can see things like how to use Google Classroom. So if you have any difficulties with that, please feel free to visit this website here and read some information. And also you can watch a video which was especially created for students. And it will guide you through how we can use, how this classroom environment can be used. There is also a general description of the course here. And then we start with the headlines, with the titles of each session. And under each title, you can see all the details about that specific session. You can visit these spaces here and find out information such as the Zoom link, some more information about the session. You can see the slides that we're going to be using. Please note that all of these material will be available one day before the session and perhaps some hours before the session. So don't worry if you cannot open the material. It will be there for you just before the session. Please, we would also like to remind you that there are some pre-activities that you have to complete before you join. each of these sessions. So please visit the platform, navigate through it, see what we have prepared for you, and be prepared for each of the sessions. And finally, we have the People's page where you can see all of your instructors here. You can click on View All and see all of the colleagues here. And you can also see your classmates, all of the participants that will be participating during these 10 days. So that's all about the platform, I guess. And now I'm passing the floor to you for any questions that you may have. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen at that point.
I would like also to add something, Elise, okay, we will prepare this material, but have in mind that we will also enrich the material because as Michael said in the beginning, we are going to have this training school 2 more times. So we will also enrich our material. It will be open for you to go and see if we have new things. And in the new editions of our training school, we will also have extra materials. So please, this is a community. In fact, we want to build a community of language teachers. So yes, we would like to keep in contact with you also after our training school.